Nigeria All-Share Index has opened on a positive note today and is currently up by about 0.06%. The current gainers in early trade are UACN, Nwando, IHS and Guaranty Trust Bank. Well, Dangote Sugar, some of the laggards are WAPCO, Macnicos, WAPIC and Sky Bank. Well, to hear more on activities on the boards, I'm now being joined by Abdul Garba. He's an analyst at investment research at Don Lauren Merrifield.
Hello. Hello.
Good morning. Okay, can you hear me? Okay, let's just talk about what the theme has been so far. We've seen 6 days of uninterrupted gains at the market. Now, yesterday we talked about the fact that, well, talking to the last guest yesterday, that investors have remained picky. But for you, what stocks have been standing out, or what stocks have investors been hungry for since the opening bell rang?
Okay, it's basically the same. I wouldn't say the same sets of stocks, but those that are the power drivers for the exchange. What we have is about 13 stocks which are good growth stories and have been supporting or leading a case for a rising index for a while.
So what about the anticipation for earnings? I imagine perhaps the momentum is gaining speed, as it were. Is that still the story at the market?
Well, that anticipation still feeds the gradual rallies we have. As companies earn over cycles and they're able to capitalize and grow basically their assets and the earnings they pass on to consumers, so should their price. Their prices should also reflect changes as they become bigger and bigger over time. So what's going on the exchange, or as the index trends upward over time, is this adjustment to anticipated earnings from one quarter to quarter or over longer periods, extending years sometimes.
In terms of value stocks, do you think investors, apart from the banking stocks, what are the key stocks investors keeping their eyes on, perhaps outside of the food stocks? What about stock, perhaps construction sector?
Well, value in this perspective, we could say stored up value, but not in current valuation, as in the assets that these companies actually have, the hard assets they have to exhibit. Well, in terms of potential for what they are trading at right now, we have quite a lot stored in, of course, we can't deviate from the banking sector. We have some discount stocks, some stocks trading below what they're actually, what actually the companies are worth. And we also have some of that stored up potential in conglomerates and in construction.
What about, well, let's talk about your own top picks for today. Sterling Bank, of course, the construction space that we just talked about. What for you is the main attraction for Sterling Bank?
The main attraction is basically the multiples. Multiples as in all the fundamentals when compared to other banks with other companies within the sector, in this case banks. It appears well positioned to essentially gain from market movements relative to the pricing with other banks. It looks, yeah, even on the continuing side of it, Sterling Bank is a fairly managed bank, is a decent run bank in that perspective as well. So.
Well, some investors or some analysts might have that, might say that same thing, what you just said now about 2 or 3 other banks. So what makes it stand out for you?
No, what does make it stand out is the fact that there's a lot of focus on the larger banks. The much larger ones have more coverage, more analysts trailing them. They're more visible to larger investors, which basically will be more disposed toward investing in larger companies for perception of size and many other benefits. So that could easily be the reason why Sterling Bank doesn't quite fit into that screen and is not appropriately priced for that.
Let's go back to the construction space to look at 1 or 2 construction stocks. Your thoughts on what the sentiment is for these stocks, WAPCO and Dangote Cement. No doubt, at least for Dangote Cement, it's had a very good run this year in terms of returns to investors. But going forward, perhaps in the short to medium term, What do you think? How do you view sentiment towards the stock?
Yeah, sentiment toward the stock would remain positive. We anticipate that we're willing to, or more likely, we're of the opinion that there's a lot of stored up value there, and in terms of its operations, its low amount of debt employed, and its very, very, very large cash portion.